Okay, good afternoon, class. Now, today, what we are going to talk to you is about these more details on strategic management, right? So, let's start with it. Okay. So, what is strategic management? We had discussed earlier also. Strategic management it plays a vital role in maintaining and gaining competitive advantage in business. So, in case of startups, it becomes very important. It plays a very prominent role. So, what is it? It's a management of an organization's resources, right? How to manage it in order to achieve its goals and objectives. So, which involves setting objectives, analyzing the competitive environment, analyzing the internal organization, evaluating strategies, and ensuring that the management rolls out the strategies across the organization. So there are two objectives. One is definitely to gain competitive advantage, right? In order to outperform its competitors. Second is to act as a guide to the organization to help in surviving the changes that is coming about. And this is another definition that we have, another definition of strategic management. So strategic management is basically what it's planning for predictable as well as unfeasible contingencies. So it's applicable for both small as well as big organizations, right? Because even whether it's an organization is small or big, even if it's smallest organization, they will face these competition and changes are there. So accordingly, for strategies have to be formulated and implemented, right, in order to attain sustainable competitive advantage. So it's a continuous process which evaluates and controls the business and the industries in which the organization is evolved, evaluates its competitors, and sets goals and strategies to meet all the existing and potential competitors, and then reevaluate strategies on a regular basis to determine how it has been implemented and whether it has been successful or not, and whether it needs any improvement or not, or replacing also sometimes. So competitive advantage, right? Today's business world is competitive, right? It's today it's much more easier and cheaper to start a business, but the competition market activities that we have, it makes it difficult to stand out from the crowd, right? So that is there. The challenge is to resist being another me too business, right? And the way to avoid this is by developing a sustainable competitive advantage that differentiates you from your competitors. So, and it's a major driver for long-term business value, and is what the purchasers will place the most value on when looking to acquire a business. What are the types of sustainable competitive advantage? One is definitely with cost, right? Second comes up value, the value of the products or the service that the business is offering. Focus advantage, right? Focus is like where the business is focusing. It's on which specific market niche, right? So that's important. These are the areas of types of sustainable competitive advantage. So to successfully compete, small business need to develop a sustainable competitive advantage, which is based on providing superior value to a specific niche. There's another advantage that is often referred to, which is as we discussed earlier, is first mover advantage, right? So first mover is when if you're the first entrant in the market, which obtains an advantage as compared to your competitors. So what are the 5 steps to develop a sustainable competitive advantage? Firstly, to understand the market and its segments, that is important, and based on that, develop an understanding of what your customers really want and start developing a value proposition which would gain their attention. Next comes up to work out on the key things that needs to really concentrate. You need to concentrate to support and deliver that value proposition. Fourth is to understand your strengths and core competencies and how you can utilize them in a more innovative manner. And lastly, based on this, you develop your business model to support and deliver the value proposition, right? And after the end of this step, you will have a clear, this 5-step process, you will have a clearly defined statement of who you are selling that is your customers and market segments, why they will buy from you and not from your competitors, that is value proposition, and the key things you need to excel to be able to consistently deliver your value proposition. And once you found out your sustainable competitive advantage, you should use it in many ways to the business's benefit. So, deterring new entrants in market. Now, new entrants can, as we discussed earlier, can create disruptive changes in market, and established companies feel pressure of reacting to change, which is not always in their interest for planning. So they try to create barriers to new entrants. So what are the types of market barriers that we have? One definitely is patents and licenses, right? So if the existing player in the market can hold a patent for a product for a number of coming years, that means what? Competitors will not come for that for a certain period of time. Secondly, establishing brands. So if the market has one or two giant brand names, then it becomes difficult for a newcomer to go ahead enter the market and go head to head with them. Established distribution network. If a company has been operating in an industry for a number of years, they have had the time to build up a strong distribution networks and channels, which becomes a challenge for the newcomers. Exclusive rights to resources. So if a company has exclusive legal rights to certain resources required by the industry, then for the newcomer it becomes really problem purchasing these resources, right? When they will have to purchase from their competitors. Government regulation and laws. For many industries, there is a strict rules of government rules regarding license policies doing business. So once the cost associated with meeting regulations and standards and achieving these necessary permits and license, the what happens? This is a huge cost, and once it's there, once the government puts it. So what happens? It's very difficult for the business to actually bear this cost. It does not make any sense for a new player to actually bear such a cost and huge amount of cost and start, because the cost increases, right? Achieved economies of scale. When manufacturing in large quantities, what happens? Cost goes down, right? That is economies of scale, right? And achieving the scale of advantage, what it requires an investment initial set of investment to set out to take care of the initial cost, so which is not possible for the new businesses, right? Okay, next comes up is business tactics. If a company has been doing business in an industry successfully, it may have the financial advantage to lower their prices at the cost of same percentage of profits. So, which will reduce profit margins if for the new entrant if they want to remain competitive. Switching cost. Some products or services may have switching costs associated with them, making it difficult for customers to move to a new company, right? Capital investment requirements. In some markets, there may be hefty investment requirements to set up operations. That is there. High research and development cost. Certain industry requires huge research and development for success, so which is difficult for a new business. Anticipating and preparing for change. There are 5 ways to anticipate and benefit from change in the market trends. So one is definitely to become more alert with what's happening around it. You need to be very vigilant. Expect things to change and look for the slow signs. You have to look for it. We have to expect that. You have to be flexible to see yes, changes are coming, and you have to be alert to see what are the signs, right? Trust your instincts. Don't wait and make small changes that can make a difference. So you need to be a visionary. Don't wait for things to happen. Start making small changes which will make a difference in the way you operate. Be ready and stay ready to adapt to change. Should be mentally prepared to be ready for change, and you need to be mentally prepared to adapt to this change. Look for the opportunities that the change brings. Any change that is coming out, what are the opportunities that is coming up? So you need to prepare, you need to look out for it and capitalize on it. Complacency, right? To remain competitive in the market requires management to take an active role in recognizing or acknowledging that the business environment is changing, right? So you have to be one step ahead. You should take measures to be one step ahead of the competition. So that means you cannot avoid to be complacent, take things for granted. There are 9 signs of a losing competition. That is when you have your vision is not clear, vision about the company. It's very unclear, it's fuzzy. Lack of strategic alignment, people don't know where the organization is going. Lack of leadership skills, when the leader does not have the right kind of skills. Discouraging culture, corporate culture, which does not inspire people, no shared values, employees are not energized, lack of trust, so that happens. High degree of bureaucracy, right? Too many layers, like too many layers between the management and in the management, slow decision making, so that creates problem. Lack of initiative, when the employees are not empowered, poor motivation, and encourage people do not and encouragement, people do not feel their contributions make a difference, so they don't want to take a initiative. Poor vertical communication between the managers, top managers, and the low level people, so and where people don't know what the managers are thinking and planning. Poor cross functional collaboration, different functions, there has to be proper coordination amongst the different departments, functional departments. When that doesn't happen, then it's a problem. Poor teamwork, right? When you do not have a proper team leaders, and where they don't want to play a part of the as part of the team, and people don't tolerate each other, so that's where problem comes up. Poor idea and knowledge management, right? So cross pollination of ideas is not facilitated, no creativity, right? So that's where problem comes up. So management must understand that to remain idle, complacent, and willing to endure in startups means death to the business in today's world. Okay, you cannot be complacent, you cannot do it, afford to do it. Doing things too well is common in business that have a history of success in the market and business performance, right? So you have built management, when they fail to recognize the dynamics of change, what happens? They start thinking of their past success, and that's where problem comes up. They tend to lag behind and result in failure. So the complacency of being in the wrong business again points to a management team that has failed to pay close attention to global markets and customer demands, right? Only to provide outdated or products or services. That happens. If you're thinking of the past, you have to think changes are happening, customers' needs, demands are changing, so you have to act accordingly. So management must develop clear understanding of how the global market is changing, new competitive factors are coming up, and accordingly you have to change. So what are the ways to improve your business to avoid complacency? First, to tap into the power of market research. Start doing a market research to see how the market is operating, what are the changes coming up, what are the needs of the customers, take a step outside your comfort zone, right? So if your business has become stagnant and you don't believe it's reached its full potential, then what happens? You need to come out of your comfort zone, see what the problem is, right? How to move ahead, like you're not moving ahead. So what can be done to move ahead? Keep your customers happy. Main thing is to keep your customers happy, so see what can be done to come up with better customer service, take their feedbacks, what do they want, and accordingly move ahead. How to reach out to your customers? Keep the score, keep the score and set goals, right? So keep score and set goals. When we say, it's there are what happens is because there are plenty of small business owners who can't accurately track their daily, weekly, and monthly numbers and financial trends, so they're not up to speeding up with their cash flows, which is a problem if you're spending much money than you're bringing in. So see that you are able to generate revenue, not too much of cost, right? Drive employee engagement, motivate your employees, that is important. When you motivate your employees, they are your biggest supporters, they are your biggest advocates, and they would be there for any changes that you're bringing about. Learn a new skill. try to enhance your knowledge by developing by developing a new skill, by actually learning a new skill, so that which would uh, help you to become more equipped, and you would be in a better position to handle situations. Embrace high impact marketing, right? So what is it? Some of the ways to have high impact marketing with a low budget is to reach out to the existing customers, spend your money on targeted marketing, team up with another business, get involved with the community. SWOT, do a SWOT analysis of your competition. SWOT means strength, weakness, opportunities, threats, which would help you to know where your competitors are standing and how you can deal with them. Keep up with the trend that is coming up in the world, the changes are coming up. How do you keep up with it? You need to come up with measures to keep up with that change. Taking it to the cloud. So cloud is a where we talk of customer relationship management, right? Project management, accounting, voicing. So what happens? Not only will you be saving a lot of ton of money and time and money, cloud-based software can scale up as your business grows. So it's a software, right? Automate administrative works, right? So which would save time and money. So looking, sorting and responding to emails, responding to customer inquiries, collecting data, customer data, scheduling appointments, paying and sending bills, creating proposals, all through the, not manually, but through your the softwares. Use it, right? Automate it. Build up your cyber security. That is also important, right? Because cyber attack, cyber attack is very common with respect to small businesses, and which is why they go out of business within 6 months. So you cyber security is very important. Take a breather. That is, working constantly is also not good, so that you tend to burn out your energy, passion. So need to take break from your product. If you take breaks, what happens? Your productivity, passion, motivation will also go. So take time away from your work and gives you a chance to also gives you a chance to slow down. So when you are returned, you are fully rejuvenated, right? Some Take a break, right? When you take a break take some rest, then you're back with full energy, right? Okay, next topic: motivating managers to innovate, right? So motivating and engaging managers begins with understanding and addressing the wide range of motives for influencing them. So motivation types can be divided into external and internal motivation. External motivation: managers who are externally motivated work hard for recognition, rewards, promotions. Internal motivation happens who are pursuing, where managers pursuing their own values, goals, and interest. Right. So both coexist within each person, but the ratio varies. So it's important. So how can actually organizations provide incentives to provide to motivate their managers? So get external rewards, right? Okay, so recognize the work that your managers are doing, accordingly reward them. Use, that is through use metrics wisely. Metrics is a valuable tool for understanding the productivity and the external motivators to those who appreciate a gauge of their performance. So it should be there. Compensate on the fair. Compensation should be fair, right? Fair and just. Promote based on performance, not connections. Those who are, it's based on the performance. So you need to be neutral. Those who are really performing well should be getting promotions and not as per your own personal connections. Okay. Promote internal motivation. Internal motivation, how can you do that? By providing a solid rationale for assignment. Managers need to know how their goals and tasks contribute to the organization's success. So that should be there. Promote manager problem solving. You hire managers to manage, so let them do it, right? Give them a chance to work independently, come up with their solutions. Give constructive feedback, right? Which helps in them to grow. Constructive feedback helps managers to know what they can do, to improve and increase the chances that they will personally own their development. Okay. Provide a choice of assignments when multiple tasks needs to be accomplished. Let the managers choose their own assignments, which helps in their improves in their feeling of self-direction, personal ownership. Right. Communicate often and openly. There should be a free communication should be there, and open discussion should happen. Managers motivating employees, and motivated managers can also unlock themselves, and they start moving ahead and with their team, and they start also motivating their employees, which becomes, so what happens, that team becomes really effective. So making it all work, your organization can boost the internal motivation of its managers, which ultimately enhance the job attitudes and reduce costly turnover throughout the organization. Continuous scanning of environment. What is continuous scanning? Continuous scanning is also called continuous system, which is used uh, for a for scanning the environment for data collection in order to plan and strategize the organization, right? So there are some of the key objectives with each trend of macroeconomic environment, that is political, government, legal. So environmental scanning is what? It's a process of gathering information about the events and their relationships with an organization's internal and external environment. And the basic purpose of environmental scanning is to help management determine the future of the organization. So scanning, how can it be done? There are different types of environmental scanning techniques: SWOT, PESTEL, interviews, surveys, group focus group, market research, right? So which helps in removing the unnecessary information and getting the relevant findings. Purposes of the scanning is to identify the opportunities and threats which are affecting the business, which would help in making a better business decisions. Okay. So this is the process that we have entire thing. So what happens? It should environmental scanning should primarily identify the opportunities and threats, as we said. Once you know them, then it helps the organization to create a strategy which would help in maximizing the opportunities and minimizing the threats. So these components of business environment. Business environment is divided into two parts: internal and external. This is the internal environment. External environment again is divided into two parts: micro environment and macro environment. Okay, so internal environment of an organization, it consists of various elements where we talk of value system, mission of the organization, structure, culture, quality of employees, labor unions, technological capabilities, all factors which is inside lie within the organizations, and any changes can affect the overall success of the business, right? On the other hand, an organization cannot operate in a vacuum, right? So there are certain factors which is outside the business also which affects it. These are the called the external environment factors, which is part of external environment. So let's one of the method of doing analysis is scanning is PESTEL. PESTEL stands for political, economic, social, technological, environmental, legal, right? So that's what it is. So it's a tool used for when starting a new business or entering a new foreign or entering a foreign market. So this is what we have in PESTEL. Top down and bottom up planning, right? On the very basic thing level, top down approach seeks to go from general to specifics. Bottom up approach from the specifics to general. So top down planning is a method of planning, defining objectives and ways to achieve them through the top down, right? So first goals are set and then ways to achieve them. So they gradually move to lower and lower levels of the organization to be developed and specified. Whereas when we talk of bottom-up planning, so it's a method of planning, defining objectives and ways to achieve them through bottom-up. Here what happens is when close targets at lower levels are set, then they are gradually integrated into the framework of global goals and global strategy at higher and higher levels, right? So top-down approach is more traditional as compared to the bottom. So see, this is the picture of both, right? So top down where we see the area manager making it, then it goes down. Whereas bottom up, this is how it goes. So pros and cons of a top down approach, right? So what happens is like, so when we talk of top down approach, it's very common, it's very well suited in projects, but there are few unfamiliar and there are very few unfamiliar tasks and few challenges. What are the pros? It's straightforward planning phase because decision is centralized, expectations are unified with roles and responsibilities clear. But there are many organizations have begun to found that in case of top-down approach, it has its limitations. What is it? Demoralizing and demotivating team culture because members have little control on the responsibilities and methods, risk of surpluses and issues down the road due to gaps in leaders' expectation and the other team members' capacities because it's one-sided decision. Okay, let's. What about the pros? The pros and cons are bottom up, right? So bottom up companies using a bottom up approach for projects often find these are the advantages that we have, like high employee engagement. Why? Because we have them. They are actually contributing to it, which increases their morale and accountability. Lower risk of surprises and issues later because employees' capacities are considered at the outset. But there are some drawbacks. Why? And see, the initial project phases can take significantly longer period of time as project managers need to incorporate input from a large number of stakeholders. Right. So that's where the problem comes up. Okay. Next topic is performance standards. Now, while the major job duties tells the employee what is to be done, performance standards provides the employee with specific performance expectation from each major duty, right? They are the actually the observable behaviors and actions which explain how the job is to be done, also the results that is expected for satisfactory job performance. They tell the employee what a good job looks like, right? So what happens is like it's some of the performance standards which is up here. The common performance standards are like it's based on position, not individual. It's observable, specific indicators of success, meaningful reasons and attainable, describing fully satisfactory performance once attained, expressed in terms of quantity, quality, timeliness, cost, safety, outcome. So these are some of the factors which should be put as part of performance standards. That's how it should be. The individual's performance should be determined, right? And in determining the performance standards, these are the following the areas that needs to be considered. What does a good you have to take into consideration when you decide your performance standards? What does a good job look like? How many or how much is needed? How long will it take to complete? What are the results needed? How accurate or how good is acceptable? Are there budget considerations? Are there safety considerations? Are there legal or regulatory requirements? Are there behaviors that are expected? What results would you consider as satisfactory? What condition will exist when the duty is well performed? What is the difference between good and poor performance? Right now, common standards applicable to everyone in a particular group that has to be there. There must be maybe a set of common standards or behaviors that are expected from everyone, right? Say for every supervisors will expect are expected to perform similarly around several functions. Everyone in the unit will be held to the same standard around framework, customer service, teamwork, customer service, right? So it has to be certain, there has to be a list of some common standards that apply to every individual's performance. Okay. Impact of performance standards on employee or managers' motivation. Now, managers have the most direct influence on employees, right? They carry the responsibility for aligning the performance of their departments and its staffs with overarching organizational goals. And they play a vital role in shaping the organizational culture. So, what happens? Performance management impacts the employee motivation, right? Question is how it impacts motivation for your employees, right? So, impact depends on how performance itself is managed, the impact. Employee who receives constructive criticism mixed with praise and receives assistance when strategizing for performance improvement is more likely to become motivated, right? If you give them feedback, constructive feedback. Whereas when performance management is handled less positively, employees actually find it very demotivating. So, next topic comes up is the board's role in strategic planning. Board, what role does board play when they go for strategic planning? It includes to identify the priorities, to establish goals, objectives, finding resources, allocating funds to support the decisions that need to be made around strategic planning. Their board is also responsible for monitoring and the execution of the strategic plan, right? The board of directors plays an important role in the strategic management process. They play a very important role, and a strategic management committee, which is commonly what is formed, which commonly audits various components of the organization's strategic management process. Why? To make it more effective and efficient. And the board guides the affairs of the corporation and protects the stakeholder interests. Okay, strategic management process, meaning, steps, and components. Now, strategic management process, we know it, where we talk of organization strategy, it's the process by which, as we said, the manager makes a choice of a set of strategies for the organization that will help them to achieve a better performance. So it's a continuous process which appraises the business and the industries in which it is evolved, right? Appraises its competitors, fixes goals to meet all the present and the future competitors, and then also reassess their each strategy, right? So strategic management process is a four-step process. First is environmental scanning, whereby data information is collected, scrutinized for strategic purposes. It helps in analyzing the internal and external factors, right? Now, after its scanning is done, then a strategy is formulated. It's a process of deciding the best course of action for accomplishing this organizational objectives and the purpose. So after scanning, managers formulate corporate business and functional strategies. Once it's formed, the strategies are formed, then it has to be implemented. So which talks about making the strategy work as intended or putting the organization's chosen strategy into action, right? So whereby there has to be a designing of the organization structure, distributing the resources, developing decision-making process, and managing human resources. Okay, after that is strategy evaluation, so which is the final step of strategy management process, where talks of appraising the internal and external affairs that are the root of the present strategies, measuring performance and taking remedial and corrective measures. Evaluating will make sure that the organization's strategy as well as its implementation meets the objectives of the organization. So this is the full process that we have, strategic management process that we spoke about. Okay, and so what happens is these components that we spoke of is they are carried out in a chronological order while creating a new strategic management plan. So present businesses that have already created a strategic management plan will revert to these steps as per the situation's requirement, so, which would help them to make the essential changes. Okay, so that's all that we have from here in this. So if you have any other questions, you can tell me in class. Otherwise, that's all that we have.